Hello everyone, this is Kestrel Raptorial. So, to understate it, there's a lot of anti-capitalist rage going on right now. It really is a gigantic mistake. Capitalism really is the foundation of the free world, and to all those who are going to be trying to hold on to it, trying to pick up the pieces. I'm going to start reading from... This is really what should have been taught in economics class in middle or high school. I would say you can start even earlier, because the book is not that complexly written. So I have Gary Wolfram's Hillsdale College edition of A Capitalist Manifesto. So I'm going to start with Chapter 1. So here's A Capitalist Manifesto. Chapter 1. The Roots of Capitalism. The roots of capitalism are ancient, so ancient in fact that they likely predate even language in the development of civilization. Capitalism arose from something so uniquely human and so intuitive that it may well be hardwired into our genetic code. Barter. Imagine the dawn of man, clans of hunter-gatherers following the herds in search of food. A few of our ancestors doubtless possessed greater physical abilities and refined skills in hunting game or locating edible vegetation, and their success won them a greater share of the bounty. Even at this primitive stage, other members of the clan would have specialized in the making of tools or the tanning of hides, activities that support the primary goal of feeding the clan. Those earning a greater share of the bounty would exchange some of their perishable surplus for a straighter spear or warmer clothing, simple barter transactions based on the perceived value of the goods offered. Capitalism evolved as one of the earliest characteristics distinguishing human behavior from that of all other animals. We alone have developed the ability to satisfy our needs and wants through the peaceful exchange of value for value. And trade is absolutely dependent on this. The elegant beauty of capitalism lies in the fact that regardless of how global or interconnected the world becomes economically, it never loses sight of the importance of the individual. The genius of capitalism is that it is not a monolithic, centrally planned monstrosity, like the government, but rather a fluid system with millions of individual exchanges resulting in the most efficient allocation of resources. The difference between centrally planned economies and free market capitalism is the difference between glaciers and the ocean. The debate over the government's role in the economy is a staple of modern politics, with opposing sides arguing for greater or lesser intervention in the marketplace. This debate took on a new form in the fall of 2011 with the Occupy Wall Street protest. Interviews with these anti-capitalism protesters reminded me of a scene in the 1979 Monty Python film Life of Brian that ended with the following exchange between a group of anti-Roman protesters. Protester 1. All right, but apart from better sanitation and medicine and education and irrigation and public health and roads and freshwater system and baths and public order, what have the Romans done for us? Protester 2. Brought peace? Protester 1. What? Oh, peace. Yes, yeah. Shut up! See, even back then they were never satisfied. In a similar vein, the Occupy Wall Street crowd's reactionary furor against capitalism apparently blinds them to the myriad benefits of capitalism, including many that we have made both their lives and even their protest possible. In their demagoguery, that they conveniently ignore the fact that modern market capitalism has reduced poverty and raised life expectancy more in the past century than did all the previous economic systems in the previous 5,000 years of recorded human history. The Wall Street protesters lacked a fundamental understanding of capitalism and how the market system works. Now, this is in large part due to the complete failure of the schools to teach this. They appear to think that the cell phones they use, the food they eat, hotels and tents they stay in. I'm wondering how they get money for hotels, but their sleeping bags and clothes, the cars they drive, and the fuel that powers them, and all the goods and services they consume every day would exist under a different system, perhaps in more abundance. While the hypocrisy of the Occupy Wall Street may be entertaining, the threat they and their like-minded allies pose to civilization is real. And we're seeing the results of that now. Everyone wants to go socialist. Socialism does not work. It has destroyed Venezuela and Brazil so far. Will destroy others. Let's see, where were we in the paragraph? So, the threat they and their like-minded allies pose to civilization is real and rooted in a lack of understanding of the founding American principles of individual liberty and self-governance. I should probably actually say self-reliance. I know what they're talking about, but self-reliance is a little more self-explanatory. We are threatened by an education system that fails to instruct our children in how limited government and a market economy lead to liberty and wealth for the masses. Okay, so there's the failure of the schools. Okay. The reason people in sub-Saharan Africa and rural India live like refugees, actually they live worse, and refugees as a word has been, as a term has been completely distorted, but I know what they're talking about. They live crappy lives. Not because they don't work as hard as we do, well, some of them, or not as smart as we are. Well, look up race and IQ, that has something to do with it, but I need to stop commenting for now. But that they live in an economic system that doesn't allow them to be productive. The basis of our economic prosperity is market capitalism, individual liberty and responsibility, and limited government. It took 6,000 years from the invention of the wheel until we developed the two-wheeled cart. Really? In the film, The Ten Commandments, we see Moses parting the Red Sea to lead the Israelites escape from the Pharaoh's army, which is riding in two-wheeled carts. From the time of Moses to Wyatt Earp, we move from two-wheeled carts to four-wheeled carts, buckboards, and stagecoaches. Yet Wyatt Earp, who is an adult when he participates in the gunfight at the OK Corral, sees the movement from four-wheeled carts to the Model T. My grandparents were born before man had ever seen powered flight, yet lived to see a time when you could buy a trip into space. Very, very expensive, but nonetheless. The rapid increase in innovation and the wealth of the masses occurred because the West gradually developed the economic system of market capitalism, the free market, and a compatible political system. Not anymore. Capitalism allows for the creation and the greatest wealth for the masses, and offers the greatest benefit and opportunities to the poor. Capitalism is not a collusion between big businesses and big government to advance the interest of stockholders and management at the expense of workers. It is rather a system of voluntary exchange based on private property rights, limited government, and individual freedom. Voluntary exchange ensures that only business that provide what consumers want, I thought it was customers, not well, either one, want at the right price will survive, fostering continuous innovation. One becomes wealthy in a market system by pleasing others. And the more individuals you please, the wealthier you become. Each day we go about our business in complete confidence that the rest of society will provide for our basic needs. Typically, we do not stop to wonder how food gets to our table, clothes in our closet, or how our shelter is provided. We do not take the time to consider that millions of people will awake in our largest cities tomorrow, and there will be the right amount of coffee, dental floss, toilet paper, and an astonishing array of other goods and services sold during the day. Yet if we do stop to think about it, it is a miracle. The market system delivers untold wealth to millions of persons. Societies that do not have market economies have been forced to concede that only free markets are capable of producing on a scale that affords even the poorest person a standard of living well above what would have been unthinkable just a few hundred years ago. Socio-economic order is determined by the rules under which we played the game. This is the political process. But as the French political economist Frédéric Bastiat noted, it is not possible to develop a science of politics without understanding how the economic system works. Nobel laureate Friedrich Hayek refined this idea by offering that if people do not understand and believe in market capitalism, they will ask their government to undertake actions that in the end will make us less wealthy and free. As Ben Shapiro says, the government sucks at everything. This has proven true with the faltering Western social democracies and lies at the root of anti-capitalist movements. What goes wrong in today's society too often occurs because people have not thought very much about how the world works. They are too busy protesting and complaining. They think themselves uninformed or simply aren't interested. However, it does not require more than an ability to read and think critically to make sense of so many confusing and contradictory statements. To recognize that what our government does to solve problems often makes things worse, and that federal, state, and local officials are often advised that their policies will fail. The difference between a good economist and a bad economist, Bastiat observed, is that the bad economist sees the seen, but the good economist sees the unforeseen, or can foresee possible consequences far into the future. I added that part. In other words, the good economist can imagine the unintended consequences of a policy action. Okay, well, they just said it right there. The goal of this book is to make you a good economist. And this, in essence, is the failure of the schools. This very simple book, if chapters like this had been taught, kids who are now young adults, adults would have a greater understanding, or at least a great deal more of them would. We have neglected to do so. So that was Chapter 1. I will post a reading and probably discussion with lots of smart mouth comments, because I tend to do that, of Chapter 2. Till then.